And there she is. Can you hear us all right, Paige?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Nice. I know you've been making the rounds this week, so we do appreciate you jumping on and talking to me and Yuli this week. First time on Tour Life. We appreciate it and are excited to have you on here.
Yeah, good to be on here. Congrats on the new podcast.
Thank you, thank you. Yuli, did you want to open it up with some questions that you had?
Oh yeah, for sure. First, congratulations on the big weekend. That had to have been awesome. I mean, coming from
Thank you very
Texas
much.
and being a Texas local and being able to take home that title, I bet that felt really great. Um, I guess the first question I would just ask you is how are you feeling after the tournament? You've had some time to digress a little bit and take it all in, and it's been quite a long time since you took down an elite series. What was it, 8 months? Is that what I saw from your last win? Is that correct? Can you hear me?
Um,
Sorry.
yeah, I won. Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, it feels great. It feels, like second event of the season. So to start out strong, get a win in early in the season is great. And give me some confidence moving forward in the season and something to look back on and remember confident and comfortable I felt. So if any doubt creep in at any point, I can just kind of rewind and replay the memories from that and use those feelings going forward.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough, like especially for people at your caliber. I mean, one of the greatest to ever do it. But you have a time where, let's say, you don't win any tournaments for even a couple tournaments, and then people start talking and kind of come at you with, oh well, she's never going to win again, and all these different things. I mean, I see the comments, and obviously you're probably
Mhm.
aware of them as well. Like, what is it like to have to kind of digest that, and then moving forward, like how do you digest that, and how do you like remain confident and just like kind of let it brush off your shoulder, or do you like take it in and dialogue it and have to figure things out? Like, what is that like mentally for you?
Yeah, it's super tough. I think that's the hardest part of the job by a long shot is just like voices that aren't my own. You already have as an athlete, you have, especially in the game of golf. I'm sure you guys have seen the Full Swing, the Netflix thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was so cool to watch that and to hear pros talk about their mindset because a lot of that is similar, and they talk about how it's a sport where you win so little and you lose so often, and chasing that win, feeling those feelings are so addicting. But for m- for most plays, like you're losing a lot more than you're winning, and for a career up to this point, like I felt like I have had a lot of wins, and it's been almost like at certain points you're almost like a given, or like I felt like I expect to win, and that kind of went away for a while, and it was like, man, I hope I can get a win. Um, so like I guess, like, to answer your question, like I try to just ignore all that. Otherwise, like, I'm just gonna be, sad or down on myself or feeling like not confident at all. So for me, I just kind of don't pay attention to that, and I'll just try to keep myself as positive as possible. That's even more to think about than just the doubt you already feel in yourself. Other people's doubt seeps in, and then that's just a recipe for failure.
Earlier, we had Simon on Page, and we were talking about how the men's side of things has gotten so deep. The field has gotten to the point of where a few strokes now can be the difference between a top 10 and 40th place. And I think something that's happening at even
Mhm.
a more drastic level right now on the FPO side, and something that you have mentioned, and honestly, a lot of people, when they win, they mention about how the field has gotten so much better. And I think we are talking about how I just don't know if fans have really grasped that yet, of where you used to probably be able to go out and have an off week and still win. And now we're seeing
Yeah.
we're seeing now, instead of just maybe one or two or three people that you get into a field and having to win, there are multiple people now that have a chance to win. We saw Ella have that epic battle at Waco. We've seen Valerie take down wins. We've seen a lot of people now just be able to kind of pop off and do well. Do you feel like you have seen a huge growth in the amount of people that you are directly competing against when you go into these tournaments now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, it could be like where you made one or two or three mistakes and you drop a couple strokes and yeah, you're still right in there. Maybe that costs you the win, but you're like pretty much still guaranteed second or even third. But now like actually I was on Smashbox last night and they mentioned that it was Kristen's first time off the podium in
Hmm.
whatever the stat was. But I was so confused when they prefaced the question like that. And I'm like, Kristen didn't podium? Like, what do you mean? And then I checked the thing and she got fifth place. And really, like, she only dropped a couple strokes. And so that's like a
Yeah.
testament to that. What you're saying right there is like, she played well enough to win, and she had a couple missed putts and a couple bad drives. And she fell from shooting for the lead to now fifth place. And so I think that that is a testament, like a real time example right there of what you're saying, Brody. And it's so true. It's so true. Like you in the men's, like, you see Cole. I was following Cole. I was kind of rooting for Cole, like, shooting a 12 under and then, being a young kid coming up and, I'm following him and he takes a bogey, he takes, a bogey and a par and he drops like 12 spots. And so it's
Yeah.
absolutely transitioning like that into the women's division as well.
Yeah, I think that's great to see because initially when I first got into the sport, on Grip Lock, they do a lot of like picks of where they pick like the top three
Hmm.
players and they want to see like who's going to finish first, second, and third. And it was literally a given literally every single week. It was Paige, Kat, and then they would sprinkle someone in at third. Where the same thing with MPO, it was Paul, Ricky, and they would sprinkle someone in now. I think you can't really necessarily even do that. Now, I would say, like,
Totally.
obviously, your game and Kristen's game not only translate over to more courses than a lot of people. Like, there are specialists that you're like, okay, they can only play on this style course versus this. And you and Kristen obviously have proven you can win on any style of course. But I think that's more fascinating too for the fans of where it's just more competition for you guys. We don't necessarily just want to see you two guys. Obviously, we want to see you guys, the best players, competing against each other. But we don't want to really want to see like a dominance thing of where it's just like a huge, massive drop off from like the first and second player in the world and then everyone else. So
Right.
it's really cool to kind of see some of these younger players coming up and kind of also just pushing you guys to the limit, right? Like
Totally.
where
Yeah.
you feel like you can't just go out there and just, oh, I can just putz around and win this. Like I have to make sure that I'm doing everything right.
Absolutely.
What do you think's changed? Like Kristen's obviously gotten so good over the last year and a half, 2 years. You being the best player on the planet for over a decade, what do you think when you look at her game? What is she doing different than everybody else to kind of close that gap and be as competitive as she has been so fast? Like, is there a certain shot that she's learned? Is it putting? Like what do you think it is? And obviously, there's other players as well. Like Katrina has been highly
Hmm.
competitive for in that same stretch of time, but kind of a new face coming in, and we have more of those. But what particularly has Kristen done to like kind of close that gap?
Yeah. So, I can't remember what year it was, but whichever year Kristen won US Women's, the year before that, I remember we were sitting at the Green Mountain Championship under the tent, like after the round, and we're sitting there eating lunch, and there was quite a few more of us. I think Hannah and Evelina and Kristen and a couple others, but we were just kind of all gathered there talking about disc golf, and I believe we were going to be featured on Jomez Pro, and I think the how the conversation came up was like, hey, how do we get more views? Like, we're playing good golf. How do we get more views? And my input was just that I think the men get more views because they this is so generalized, but I think like in general, men have less fear than women. And that definitely translates on the disc golf course. A female player, when they're putting at OB, we're like thinking like, oh man, I don't want to putt at OB. What if I lose my disc? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna, and the man is just like, okay, I have to make this putt if I want to win. Like you have to make the putt. And big time that happens in scrambling, where a female player gets into the woods and they pitch out, where a male gets in the woods and they don't even know, maybe there is a gap, maybe there's not, they don't tell anybody like, oh, I'm shooting out a prayer here, but they just rocket it out of the
Yeah.
woods, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it's the same as pitching out, right? If it doesn't work, so you might as well try. And that was the conversation and the input that I gave, and it was just like, I think that's how we get more views. We stop taking our medicine or taking our bogey, and we at least try to save the par. And we try to run that putt. Maybe we putted OB, but at least it's exciting. Like maybe the viewer at home is like, "Oh, that was stupid. I can't believe Paige ran that." But hey, at least it's something to talk about, and at least it's excitement. And I remember Kristen saying like, "Hey, I really thought about that," and she said that like, I'm gonna start running more putts, and Hannah and Evelina too, and I think collectively as a division we just decided like, hey, if we want to win the tournament, we can't lay up anymore. We got to start running these putts. So I think that was like the shift in the FPO's like confidence and fear, like
Yeah.
going downhill. And I think once one, two, three, four, five players started doing that, then everyone's like, wow, I guess I should be running these. And it kind of was like this spoken slash unspoken thing where you got to stop laying up. And I think really that's what it is just a lot more bravery, whether that's on the putting green
Yeah.
or scrambling and trying to figure out more like, you know, out of the woods shots.
So to expand on that a little bit, Paige, because we do see, going back to Waco, for example, we do see in that instance, Ella essentially kind of handing the win over to Kristen with her OB throws down the
Yeah.
stretch, right? Had she played a little bit safer, it would have forced Kristen to do something that would probably have been pretty difficult for Kristen to do. I would say, like, watching some of your tournaments last season, sometimes when you weren't able to pull it off towards the end, some of that maybe had to do with not the putting, because I do agree with like, you have never shown fear around the putting greens. And I think that allows you to make a lot more putts than a lot of the women in FPO do. And I think that gives you a huge advantage. But we have seen maybe in the past some a little bit more aggressive play from you, of where maybe you throw an errant first shot and you really try to make up with it with like a really great second shot. This tournament, I didn't really see that from you. I saw a little bit more of a course management style, and I think that shows with your OB rate. We can pull up your stats here from this tournament. You were third in OB rate. You did not throw the disc OB that much on a course that had tons and tons of OB. Was this just simply you threw the disc really well this tournament, or do you think that you did make a little bit of a change of like picking your spots a little bit more this week on when to be aggressive and when to maybe take your medicine a little bit and try to keep yourself in the tournament?
I think a little bit of a combination of those, because I was definitely throwing the disc really well, like off the tee. So I didn't really have those like how you prefaced it of like your first shot wasn't as good. So your second shot, you would try something. My tee shots were really good this week. So, I didn't really have to be aggressive on any second shots too often, maybe
Hmm.
a few times, but, I think, yeah, also some course management where I decided, and it's so hard for me to do that when it's like you're looking at a 40 footer, which you can make that 40 footer, but that fear creeps in and you're like, what if? What if I hit the cage and it rolls down this hill? So a couple times I decided, all right, this isn't the right time to run this putt right now. And just trying to, I guess, like somebody tonight said something about get the monkey off your back, and now that's in my head of like, you know, wanting to get the monkey off my back and win a tournament early in the season, and not just like go for the putt that is going to excite me, and more so, you know, try to go for the win. But so I
You
guess a combination.
you think back in the day too, like you could get away with it a little bit more. Like you could
Oh,
run
for
those
sure.
putts and it was fine because like you said, you were kind of chasing that like feeling of like gratification for just your own game. And maybe that motivated you because you knew, hey, I don't need to bring my best stuff and I'm still probably gonna win the tournament type type thing.
Yeah, I guess somewhat. It wasn't really like consciously thinking
Yeah.
those things, but yeah, totally like if I would three putt or if I would go B or something, checking the scores and then realizing, oh, okay, cool, I still have a little bit of a buffer. And then
Yeah.
you're allowed to you feel like you're allowed to continue to try stuff like that. So yeah, I but yeah, it's quite a bit different at this point in disc golf. We have 60 women, and to cash, you're having to average like 935, 940 golf.
Do you think
It looked like, oh,
if you play your best golf, Paige Pierce's best golf, do you think you still just run away? Do you think anybody's at that level to where they could keep up with Paige Pierce's best golf right now?
I don't know, it's hard to say. I mean, I missed a lot of putts that I felt like I should have hit this week. Um, but overall, I threw the disc super well. I think I really should have cleaned up my putting. Um, so I feel I could have had a few less strokes on the course,
Yeah.
but also playing with Kristen, specifically that third round, uh, that wasn't Kristen. So, I can say, yeah, I left some strokes out there, but so did she. So did Ella. So did Holland. So did Missy. So did Jessica Weiss. So, um, who- who's to say? And I'm excited to find that out this year. I think that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm excited for this year is to put that to the test and to try to put down my best possible tournament and to see how it falls.
caddies are still like not a very common thing on tour. You still see a lot of pros want to carry their own bag, want to
Totally.
play their own game, and just do their own thing. It did seem like you and your caddy, I don't know who that was, but it did seem like you guys had a pretty solid relationship. Did you use them at all in some of those areas of where you were like, maybe in the past, this is something that I'd be aggressive and go for? What do you think? Or is that person simply just there to carry your bag and just to kind of be someone that you can talk to in between shots?
Yeah, I think when Nate caddies for me, it's definitely decision making. Help, um, because, like, I play so many practice rounds with him, he knows my discs and
Hmm.
he knows my percentages with certain discs and stuff like that. But Jared, his name's Jared, my caddy from the past 2 events, he's getting there, learning my decisions and coming to practice rounds with me so he can kinda see that stuff, but for the most part, I would say with him, it's, just someone to bounce my thoughts off of and get them out so they're not in my head. Whether that's like, hell yeah, that was a sick shot, and you can't say that. I mean, I can say that to Missy, but I'm not really gonna walk over to Kristen and be like, yeah, give me some love. Like if she wants to
Mm.
give it, that's great. But I, sometimes you want that affirmation and like, yeah, sweet shot, good choice, good angle, whatever it may be, or vice versa. If you throw a terrible shot, just someone to vent it out to and get it out so it's not like stewing in your head. I would say with Jared, that was kind of more of what was going on there, basically.
Okay. Um, Another part of your game, watching you on coverage a lot over the last couple of years, a part of your game that I felt like was missing, or not necessarily like you were able to, because we've seen backhand dominant players be very successful on both sides, but it felt like you were always like kind of on the cusp of having a very good forehand, but it was something that it just felt to me like you didn't trust it. It felt like you had the ability, but like when it came down to like tournament pressure, you maybe like didn't trust it. And one thing I noticed when you teed off on hole one, you threw a really freaking good forehand, like great angle control, great distance. And then you said something to Holland. Have and I think everyone knows like Holland has one of the probably better forehands in FPO. Have you been working on your forehand more to utilize not just like the scramble and stuff, but like to actually throw like power forehand shots off the tee?
Um, Yes and no. I've been working on my sidearm a lot, but it's not I haven't really been working on the power sidearm yet. Trying to take it step by step and not like overwhelm myself with knowledge and things, but really I was working with angles and like I would say like up to 290, 300. I feel very confident getting the disc wherever I need it to go on any angle. But really, the power sidearm is what I'm still needing to work on. And we were talking about it. Actually, almost every round that I played, it was a topic of conversation. Um, just another thing that the FPO is growing on is the sidearm and the power sidearm, and especially with Holland round three, you know, it never left the hyzer angle. It's like a power, a pushing hyzer sidearm, powerful, and she's got like what is it, hole seven, I think it is. Um, just parking it hole eight
Hmm.
even, and that's like I think hole seven from our pad was like 340 on a
Hmm.
pure hyzer. So like I think that when I get to that point, that's when I'll feel like okay, now I feel comfortable throwing that. But also like it's not necessarily that I don't feel confident. It's like the Anheuser in disc golf is one of my favorite things of all time to watch an
Hmm.
Anheuser fly. And so like for me it's not necessarily of like I can't do it. It's just I prefer to throw Anheisers, and maybe that costs me some strokes sometimes. But I when you feel confident and you feel like you can trust your disc and also you like it, sometimes I just feel like why throw the sidearm. But hole one specifically, it was might as well have said mandatory sidearm.
Yeah,
There's
so
just
much
Right.
easier.
yeah.
What were your thoughts on the course? Because you guys played a couple different pin locations, you played a couple different tee pads. There was a lot of obviously back and forth on the MPO side of things. We didn't really hear too much on the FPO side. So did you feel like that course played well for your guys' field?
Um, yeah, so many things about the course this week. It's like been a huge topic. I feel like
Hmm.
um I I I'm happy that we went to Austin. I think overall it was a huge success, like with the amount of spectators and the galleries and stuff. It was great. And um but there was a little bit of confusion of like why are we playing this unproven course, like this temp course. There's a lot of cool courses in Austin, but I think it worked out well. As far as like the golf and setting up for FPO, I thought it was good. Yeah, there was some good variety. I felt like uphill, downhill, flat shots, Anheisers, excuse me, sidearms, hyzers. I felt like there was a good variety, and I think my only complaints really are like the walk after hole nine. It's like why we're walking like zero point 0.7 miles to get
You
to
got to
hole
walk
10's tee
past the
pad, and
hole. Yeah.
yeah, hole four as well. After you tee off, you're like walking super far. So some of the flow was not my favorite. Um, but it also seemed like the crew took direction well, and they were like, "Hey, hole six, that branch needs to go," and they took it down and trimmed some stuff up. Yeah, I'm curious if we're gonna go back there, but I thought it suited our field well. You got to see a lot of different shot shapes, and you know, yeah, I thought overall it was decent.
You've won a lot on tour, off tour. I'm sure you have closets and boxes full of trophies that you probably have completely forgotten about. Where
78
does
elite, right? That's what I read. 78
78?
elite
Okay.
elite series.
Where does we'll throw a picture up here in a second. Where does this trophy from the Open at Austin? Where does this rank? The hat, the cowboy hat. Where does this
Yeah.
rank as far as trophies go?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. I think the uniqueness and like I hope it continues, and where it becomes a tradition. I think that, thinking of ball golf when you're like, oh, the Masters, and you think of the green jacket, like the Open in Texas, you get a cowboy hat. Like, I think it would be cool to have traditions with trophies like that. And yeah, for me, I mean, I think it's really cool. I have a didgeridoo from Australian Open, and Like, I had a belt buckle from last year from Texas State's, and
Yep.
now I got a cowboy hat to go with it. And yeah, I think trophies like that are really cool.
Did they say anything about like next year that they're going to have the past winners? Like, obviously, if you win, this wouldn't work. But if someone did happen to beat you next year, do you get to
Oh,
present them the
passing it
hat?
on.
Like, do you get to
Oh, present it.
you get to keep your own hat? Like, you obviously keep your hat, but
Yeah.
you mentioned the Masters and the green jacket. The previous
Yeah.
winner is the one that gets to put the jacket on the new
Oh,
winner. So this could be
interesting.
like a crowning. Like that would be kind of a cool
That would
thing
be
of like
really cool.
previous winner puts the hat on the new winner,
That'd be really cool.
and
I
just
think that happens at
have traditions like
USDGC.
that.
Doesn't that, Paul?
What is it, a
Like at
ring?
USDGC, well, all
And the
the
ring ceremony,
previous, yeah, the ring ceremony. I think that might
I think
happen.
they're all there. Like anybody who's won
Yeah.
a USCGC all goes up there with their rings, get presented it.
Yeah, which there's nothing else like that. So, I mean,
So
that would be really cool if that was something that happened. But for that to happen, we would have to have like, actual players meetings and people to actually attend those
Yeah,
and award
yeah.
ceremonies. We haven't really had award ceremonies since
I was
COVID. Like they just never really came back.
I was talking about this with somebody recently that I had an idea of like I really think at the end of each season we should have awards, like an actual place where you go and you have somebody like live doing like a whole show and we all dress up in suits and our nice attire and we sit down at a banquet and then there's like player of the year gets announced and you go up there and
Hmm.
shot of the year and it's like this big celebration. I feel like in disc golf right now there's not a lot of players celebrating players, which is done in other sports to where you can kind of take the take the gloves off and go sit down and appreciate your competitors.
Totally.
um
Like kind of like the Grammys or something,
yeah,
but of disc golf.
exactly,
Yeah.
the
Would
Grammys
you
or the
want that to be
ESPYs.
only an invite only thing, Yuli, where it's like if you're nominated for a category or award, you get to show up? Or are you saying like you want
Yeah.
literally
No,
250 people to show up?
no. If you're nominated for like shot of the year or player of
Yeah.
the year, like there's a bunch of different things, or best putter of the year or whatever it is.
So
You
it's
know
like
what I mean?
50
Like you get to
people. It's
bring,
pretty exclusive. That would be
yeah.
dope.
I
And
think
then
that
it's like
sounds really cool. And you could also like pair it with like a little summit or like some kind of players union like meeting or something
yep.
like that. I mean, there's
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
and
things we need to talk about at the end of the year moving forward to go strong, better and stronger into, the next year. So I think that sounds like a great idea.
yeah, I
all
don't
right. Oh, go
I
ahead,
think
Yuli. Sorry.
no, last thought about it is it goes back to like I really feel like for the camaraderie of the sport, like it's important to celebrate achievements and things that people, because we work so hard during the season to get those things done. um we all know how hard it is, and to be able to have that kind of recognition, not from anybody else but from the players
From your
themselves,
peers. Yeah,
is
totally.
so important in sports.
Totally. And like the way the season ends is just kind of weird. Like,
Yeah.
especially this past year with the playoffs and then, the Pro Tour Championship, like people just start trickling off, like, oh, they didn't qualify, or like, oh, where's that person? Oh, they didn't qualify, they're gone. And it's like, well, shoot, now I'm
Yeah.
not going to see them for 4 months, and nobody gets a chance to say bye because we're so focused on those
Yeah.
playoffs and the finish of the year. So also like the player of the year stuff and the um, the points leaders and all that doesn't get announced till like the following
Wow.
year at Worlds. So that would be
Yeah.
really cool to finish the year off and like have like a um, you know,
I could see
celebration.
You,
something thrown in like at the end of the tour championship. When the
Yeah.
tour championship wraps up, them throwing together a little bit of some sort of thing. I think they did something similar to like last year, but they like I don't know. It was kind of I don't know. It was kind of I don't know if you
you,
guys went to that thing at that
Mm-mm.
restaurant or whatever. It was
Paige, you remember
interesting.
when we did the 100,000, like Jomez did the 100K
Yeah,
party, something like that,
something like
where we
that.
had
Yeah,
AJ Risley kind of doing he did like a little stand up bit and had them all kind of go, something like that would be really cool.
I agree.
All right, Paige, I got a question for you. So we mentioned it a little bit, but I'm curious as to like what your goals are for this year, and if you feel like you have something to prove this year to the viewers, the fans, the spectators. You did mention in your post interview that you feel like right now mentally you're in the best spot that you've been in. Um, are so have you been able to kind of shut out that noise? Because it is, let's be honest, it is a ridiculous thing for people to be like, Paige, and we see it on the other side too in MPO when like Paul doesn't win for a while or Ricky doesn't win or whatever, and everyone just like jumps into like that person's washed, they're trash, they're never going to win again. Have you been able to do a good job of like being able to either silence that and not see it, or have you been able to like been able to just like handle it in a different way so that way when you're on the course you're able to just focus on what you're trying to do there?
Yeah, I think it's tough. At times I do better than other times. But yeah, I try to silence everything online. The only social media I have on my phone is YouTube, and sometimes still I see stuff there or like, um, but I try not to. But then it still kind of seeps in if I do any interviews like this, or uh, what was I gonna? The press conferences before, like they might throw a stat
Mm-hmm.
out, and it's like, well, I was feeling pretty good, and now you got me thinking about that. It's kind of like Yuli, I'm sure that this has happened to you before. Like you're doing some kind of clinic, and then literally this one still sticks out to me. I still remember this. Somebody asked me one time at a clinic, like, when you're pushing off, blah blah blah, like, what is the back of your left knee doing? And I'm like, what? And I'm just like, what? And so then, like, every time for the next month that I threw, I'm like, I'm throwing and I'm thinking about the back of my left knee, and I'm like, wow, I've never thought about that before. And now I can't stop. And so it's kind of like that, where it's like someone says something, and whether it's true or not, if it's like out there, or like statement maybe that you might have had some kind of self doubt about at some point, then it's like, oh dang, now I'm thinking about that. And so I try my best to just like turn it off, but it's easier said than done for sure. But yeah, I think like my goals are to just kind of keep that at a minimum and try to just stay like confident. But um it's tough, it really is. It's uh all you can do is like just try to play good golf, and whatever happens, happens. But it does suck when I feel like I have played good golf, but I guess I've set a high bar for myself in the past where two majors and three pro tour and you had a shitty season, it's like, any other
Yeah.
player that had that in their season, it would be like, dang, nice season. But for me, it's like, oh, she's washed up, or she's never going to win again. It's like, what are you talking about? That was such a good season. So yeah, there's the only thing I can do for my mental health and my confidence moving forward is to just ignore everything like that. But it sucks to not be connecting with people as much. But you know I got to do what's best for me, and that's the way it's got to be for me currently. Maybe at some point I can like rise above that and not let other people's words affect me. But it, when you got a bunch of people like commenting on your stuff, that, whatever, it's sucks.
Is winning as important this year as it was 5 years ago for you?
Um, I th- at certain times it feels important, but even like after this win, like I get so many text messages or messages, and it's like, nice win, and it's all these thoughtful, nice things. But it's like, I wish those people would reach out to me when I don't win, and it makes it feel like, okay, this is what I have to do to get love and to get support and to get encouragement. And that part of it really sucks for me. And uh, but I am an athlete. So it's like, what do I expect? That's probably how it's always going to be and how it should be. But, it just is something that I think about. So yeah, I think that, I don't know, I've kind of gone through a really interesting. I've been talking with a sports psychologist because it's something that's been like an internal battle with me, where it's like I'm trying to be a good disc golfer, I'm trying to win tournaments, I'm trying to be the best player in the world, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to like compete. I don't know how to phrase it. Like I don't this whole thing of like I'm better than you, you're better than me. It's just toxic, you know. But it's hard as an athlete to find that middle ground. So it's something that I'm working through. And at certain times, like winning does feel super important. Other times, like kind of what you were talking about, Yuli, with celebrating your peers. Like you just want to celebrate the good shots, whether that was from your hand or from Kristen's hand or Holland's hand. Like if a good shot is thrown, I feel honored to be that up close and to see it. Or that, I impressed myself and I threw this cool shot. Seems in my recent past more important than winning, but definitely going into 2024 where my discraft contract is expiring, there's a big part of me that's like, okay, I want to show discraft that um, you know I'm still their top dog and that I'm here to continue to win tournaments and to improve as a player.
One thing I do want to commend you on that I think is probably extremely challenging, because I feel like your career of like what you were able to accomplish early on is very like similar to like a Ronda Rousey. And I don't know if you're familiar with her career that she had in the UFC, but she essentially just came on the scene and completely just dominated everyone. And no, they hadn't seen anything like that before. And then when she got her first loss, all the chatter was, well, she's done. She can't do it. They figured her out. And she was never able to bounce back. She just
Dang.
never could get back to the level that she once had. And I feel like that's probably extremely difficult as a high level athlete. And I just wanted to commend you on like so early in the season already. I mean, we're only at our, what is it, our third elite event, and you've already taken a win down, which I think a win this year is much more difficult than last year, which is even harder than the year before. It's only getting harder and harder to win. Only one person wins every week. And I just want to commend you on that, because I think that is a very difficult thing to go through, of where to be the top dog, to be winning everything at all times. And then, like you said, you had a season that was actually a really good season if you look at it, but hearing everyone being like, not a good season, and then to be able to come right back out this season and get a win right off the bat, that's tough. That's not easy to do. And yeah, I just want to commend you on that. And I'm very excited to kind of see how this season goes, because I think there are so many top level FPO players right now. And then we have this new batch of players that is like slowly gaining to where they can pop off and be in the mix. And I think that's just good for FPO. I think that's just going to make tournaments a lot more exciting moving forward. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be an awesome season. And like, yeah, I'm just excited to see what's in store. And, I think it's so cool that something you said earlier about like winning on different types of courses. I think that's something I'm really excited about too, is to test my game against all of these other women's games on all types of different courses throughout the year, and some new courses as well. I know the Open at Austin was a new course, but also I'll be going to Norway for my first time, so I'm excited to see
Oh,
that.
wow.
I watched the coverage par fours or par threes, and there's one new one too that U.S. Women's is in a new and like courses and test my game out.
Nice. Yuli, did you have anything else, or are we going to our favorite segment to finish it off?
No, I asked Simon this question. It's something I think I'm going to ask all the guests. Is out of all the new players coming up in the FPO, who's like one of the people who you look at their game and you think like, man, that's nice. Like, is there any up and comers to where you look at their game and you're like, dang, I really like that. That's a talented individual right there. Simon told me he liked Nicholas Antela. and that he was very impressed with how he played because of his stature. So, do you have somebody who you see who like you like the way they play?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people have different aspects that I'm like, wow, that putt, or wow, that sidearm, wow. But I think like the one to narrow it down to one, and also I think the most well-rounded player is definitely Holland Hanley. I think she will be an Elite Series winner this year.
Mm.
And yeah, she's got like a super powerful spin putt. She's making them from circle two like very often. And this we already talked about, and she's got that same distance back. She's got rollers, she's got it all. And she's a couple shots from challenging me for the win at the Open at Austin. Like she had a brutal spit out on, I believe it was 14, and brutal, like dead center from 6 feet. And the next
Ooh.
hole, she shanked her shot, and she was like, I was just still thinking about that. I was still thinking about that spit out. So, like, really, the only part is mental game and not letting that little spit out
Yeah.
affect your next couple holes. Um, when she does that, not if, when she does that, she's only going to have an Elite Series win. And I think that's going to be within the next couple months, really.
Love that.
She seems like a player that when
I
she
like to
kind of
see
gets.
also.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think we're a little delayed. Sorry. I was going to say also, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'd like to see Haley King. I haven't played with her yet this year, so I'm not sure where she's at, like with her game or mentally, but like she, Holland kind of reminds me of a Haley King, like with that
Mhm.
putt and that sidearm and that backhand. So I would like to see a resurgence of Haley, and her to get her like back and come out and perform well.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Holland, I feel like she's just like one win away from being an absolute monster. Like once
Yeah.
she gets that first W and gets that confidence
Yeah,
of like I can come out here and dominate and win these things, I think it's gonna take her game to a completely different level than it's already at, which is at already a pretty high level. So with that, we go to our favorite segment page. This is where we ask all our guests that come on their biggest pet peeves. Now, this can be anything in disc golf. This can be what players say to you on the tee box. This can be what fans say to you after a bad round. This can be what people, whatever. It's literally anything in disc golf. Biggest pet peeves.
okay.
If you have any off the top of your head, I know we would all love to hear them.
Yeah, I think from like spectators slash fans, um, if I'm not seeing you on the disc golf course, don't say Paige Pierce. Just say what's up, Paige. Like it's just I feel weird. I just like it's like Paige
You
Pierce,
do
and I'm
have a
like,
really
oh
good.
god,
You do have a
like
really good first and last name though. Like it's a really good.
It
Like you have a
rolls
good,
really
yeah, you
easily.
have a
say
really
that
good
to
name
anybody. I
combo.
don't say that to anybody. Yeah, yeah. My neighbor calls me Paige Powers. She was like, "Oh, my friends are disc golfers, and they said that my neighbor's famous. You're Paige Powers," and that's funny. But anyway, off topic. Another one is like when somebody's like, "How'd you shoot?" It's like, just check the scores. Just look at the scores. Like, chances are, if I shot good, I don't want to brag about it, and if I shot bad, I don't want to bring it back up. I'm trying to work through it. So like, I just never want to talk about what I shot after my round. Never,
Yeah.
never, never.
To add on to
Um,
that one, because me and you have the same one with that. The when you do say like, yeah, I didn't play well. The additional pet peeve is when they're like, well, you did better than I did, and
yeah, or you'll get
you're
them
like,
next time.
you're like, that's why
Yeah,
you're on that side of the rope, and I'm on this. I'm
yeah,
supposed to play better than you. That's my
yeah,
job, and I'm doing a
yeah.
poor job of it.
Totally, totally. And I feel like for like a competitor, I had one, oh, I know. I remembered it. When I'm not gonna name names, but there are some players specifically that come to mind that just aren't aware when it's their turn. It's like, pay attention.
Mm,
Like, what else are you here for? Like, this is why you're here. Like, you should know when it's your turn to throw and be ready. It's not like the 30 seconds, like they're taking
yeah.
too long on their pre-shot routine. It's just like they're just like wandering around and it's like, hurry up and like you're out again. Like, come on. And yeah, anyway, that drives me
That
nuts because I'm so
that would
anxious. I'm like,
that would speed up
yeah,
play. So I know so many people talk about like pace of play and like 30 seconds and stuff. Honestly, if players were just more aware, like when they're on the tee box and it's like they're ready to go when it's their time, like these rounds would not take nearly as long as they
definitely,
currently do.
definitely.
So those are things that would definitely make it better for us as pros, but also better for spectators because they'd be
Yeah,
seeing more action in smaller part of time.
yeah.
Um,
And really that's really the only thing though. Like I don't care what a competitor says to me. It's like they've been in my shoes and they know what, you know, usually, so I don't really mind saying nice shot or something. Some people, but I mean, your words didn't affect the flight of the disc. I don't care at all. But I think the last thing, and this is like probably been a huge topic of conversation already for you guys, is the cameraman or anyone being in the way. It's like nothing should jeopardize the golf. Like first and foremost is the golf. Like spotters, spectators, golf carts, whoever should not be in the fairway. And like that has got to stop. That is like that's quite a bit more than a pet peeve for me. I think it's like almost like filling me with like anger because it's like making our sport look like a joke at this point. And it's like every event. That's what we're talking about is the spotter that cost the stroke or this golf cart that Katrina hit. And, you know, it's like, this needs to stop being a topic of conversation. And the only way to do that is get them out of the fairway. Why are they even close?
there was on hole
Last one.
5. Oh, so I was just say on hole 5 there was a the
Was it? Yeah.
VIP. I was just gonna say the VIP situation is a weird one for me because like they're inside the ropes, which I get. Like that's a nice perk that you can have spectators inside the ropes. But the problem is like my first round we had it looked like a feature card. It was like me, Eagle, I'm blanking on the other two, but it was like a feature card esque round. I have terrible memory. So
That
we
was
had like
me. I was on there just
I'm just
so
saying when I
good.
looked at it, when I looked at the card, I was like, are we being filmed? And we weren't. But we had like 30 or 40 people walking with us. And so they were all like VIP. So we had like an actual Disc Golf Pro Tour staff member or volunteer to kind of show them where to go. My last round, I was so far down the leaderboard that we had like 5 to 10 people watching us, but they didn't have anyone there. So on hole 5, my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, came out
Mm,
and watched because they live in Austin. And I'm staying on the tee pad, and my brother and his wife are literally walking where the players are walking straight at us. And Bradley Williams is on the card. And he's like, "Oh, look at these spectators! They're walking straight down the fairway." And like you could tell, like someone's about to yell at them. And I just like look at him. I'm like, get, and he's like, oh snap! Like he had no idea, and like you can't expect on a course like that, you can't expect spectators there for the first time to know what the holes are and stuff. And so like that's gonna be an interesting one moving forward if they keep doing these
yeah.
VIP stuff
Yeah.
of where they just have like random spectators roaming the fairways. Um, because the last thing we want to do is hit someone. Like that's the last thing we want to do. So, Yuli, did you have anything else for
Right.
Paige?
No, I just say good luck the rest of the season. It was awesome talking to you. Congratulations on the win over there at Austin. And I guess are we going to be seeing you in Tennessee? Is that the next one? Music City Open, maybe?
Yep. Yeah. Heading out to Tennessee. Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Paige. I know everyone listening really enjoyed it. We wish you all the best of luck and safe travels up to Nashville. We'll see you up there.